So welcome everyone to the latest episode of the Talking Wheels podcast, the weekly speedway podcast out with you every Saturday. I'm your host, Michael Wright, Twitter Writer74, and my co-host joining me again and starting to clamour to be part of the permanent team is Lynn Murray, our star from Glasgow. Lynn, good to see you.
Thank you.
As always, and our guest, really pleased to see our guest joining us today. Somebody with a lot of experience on the riding front, but also in terms of running the team with recent experience with Birmingham Brummies. So a big welcome and hello to David Mason. Hi, David.
Hi, guys. Hope you're all right.
All good, thank you, and great. Thanks for joining us, and always really grateful for people giving up the time to spend on things like this. Obviously, our interest just to hear from as many interesting people around the sport and get people talking about speedway. So, I've read stuff. I mean, doing a bit of research ahead of today, I've read stuff. Speedway Star did some around the time when you were kind of hanging up the Kevlars, if you like, the levers, the Kevlars. Talked a lot about your career and took you right back to the early days with at the Eastbourne training track and the likes of Martin Dugard, Mark Law and people like that who have kind of come out of there. Take you right back there, David, just thinking of your early days as a rider. What do you think, what do you reflect on when you look back at that stage?
It was, riding speedway was all came by chance anyway, because they used to have the market out the back of the car park, and again, back in those days, you didn't have you kind of Asda's and Tesco's that are open 7 days a week, open on a Sunday. So your local markets were always on. You'd go and get your veg and stuff, and we turned up one day to go shopping, and the bikes were going around on the mini track, and I didn't really take much interest to it. I was more into football back then, at 9 years old, and then Dad was like, "Would you want?" At the time, you could hire it, and hire the bikes. And Dad was like, "Do you want to have a go?" And I said, "No, I'm not. I'm not interested at all." Kind of walk past. You walk around the market. Mum grabbed whatever she wanted, some veg and potatoes or whatever she got for the roast dinner you should do on a Sunday. And then we headed back, and then Dad was like, "Oh, go on, have a go. Go on. It's only however much. It could have been £1 or whatever it was, or a couple of quid." I was like, "No, I'm not interested." So we jumped in the car and come home. Well, literally, we only lived sort of 10 minutes away from the track. So Mum had forgotten something. Again, no shops were open. Dad said, "Come on, let's go back to the market." We'd grab whatever it was. It could have been some carrots or something. I can't even remember. Jumped back in the car, went back, and we went past it again, walked past it. And it's like, "Go on, have a go." I was like, "No, really, really not interested. Let's just crack on, grab the veg and go home, and keep the ball up the wall, and I'll be happy to do that." And then we walked around, come back again. He was like, "Go on, have a go." And I was like, "Jesus Christ, stop going on. Like, you're trying to force me into it." So by then I was just like, "Yeah, go on then." And we went up to Scott Swain at the time. And we said, can we hire it out? He said, "We're just packing up. You can have a go on the back of my bike and then have a go on it afterwards." Well, I did 40 laps and didn't get back off. So I think Scott had to try and drag me back in. But yeah, and then literally 2 or 3 weeks later, Dad had bought, a little 90cc bike from Scott actually, and then that's where it started. So yeah, we kind of grew up with Lee Richardson, Craig Richardson, on the small track, junior track with Scott Pegler, Scotty Nichols, Ben Howe, all them sort of guys were on that era really. And then and then obviously we had the team events against Mildenhall, which was your Sal Cloughton, people like that, that kind of, we had made it interesting really. So, it was always good to have that, and then go training in the morning. It was a whole day for the family because you go training in the morning, and then you go to the meeting in the afternoon, which is always Sunday meeting, which always was great because you had Canterbury back then, and and it was good. It was good, and it was just so different, and it was well supported. It was always well supported, and it was just enjoyable to watch. Of course, having a dream of being a speedway rider and riding in front of a crowd was just, it was just a dream really. And of course, eventually it did kind of come true. And yeah, it was good. It was the good old days. There was no stress. There was no, it was nice. It was good. And that first year, I I won a lot of things for the age group. Nothing like what that's in place at the moment with the with the British guys, but it was, I suppose it was on a lower key sort of, under 12s. I won the championship there, but it was good. It was just enjoyable, winning trophies and then going home and again, obviously having the local press obviously interested all the time. So, and then one thing led to another, and I'm at the end. It's just one click and it's gone. It just goes so quick, doesn't it? So.
Yeah, did you feel? I mean, speedway's quite weird, isn't it, in terms of the action on the bike to kind of almost the way your action on the handlebars and bringing the back wheel round. I mean, was that something you got to hang of fairly quickly, or because it's quite counterintuitive, really, isn't it, for riding the bike to do it that way?
Yeah, you're making your bike do something that it doesn't normally do, and obviously you're making your body do something that it doesn't really want to do either. So, and your brain is telling you to go and do something different. It's all kind of, it is hard to kind of justify how the bike works, but once you get used to it and you're training, you're having obviously training on the bike all the time, it does get easy. And actually, I remember one ride, it was actually Dean Barker. He always said the faster you go, the easier it is. Yeah. Easy said than done, but because at the end of the turn, at the end of the straight, you've got to be able to turn. But he always used to say that the quicker you go, the easier it is. So but yeah, it's quite tough on on the guys. I mean, back then, we didn't have personal trainers, and obviously the nutrition, and we'd all kind of. I mean, I remember riding down at Rye House and places like that, and I was riding 3 or 4 times a week, and stopping off at the local chippy on the way out, or the Chinese, and we kind of like every night would have a different place to go to. The riders wouldn't do that now. Yeah, they would. They've got this. It's all about weight and getting it down. I mean, don't get me wrong. We all trained back in the day. I mean, I used to cycle a lot and run and go to the gym, but nothing like what they do now. So, their bodies are put through. I wouldn't say they're put through a lot more than what we do. I just think they've just gone that way, and it's just the way the whole world's gone, isn't it? They've all done it. Whether you're a runner or whatever, you have to train that much more. Or if you're a vegan, getting the weight down or whatever, however you do it. So, I mean, it's tough on your body, and it's tough mentally. It really is. The public don't realise what the guys have to go through. It's easy to kind of sit and criticize. Hey, I criticize football. I watch football, and I'm always criticizing, but I know what it's like when you're actually in front of a crowd and you're actually, you're on that bike or you're on that football pitch, and it is different. But hey, us British, we're all good at criticizing, aren't we? So
yeah, we like to build people up and then knock them down, don't we? It seems.
Of course we do.
National pastime.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah. But it's tough. It's tough on the mind. It really is.
David, I've been reading up a bit about you as well, although I have watched you a few times. But there was a period of time where you took part in a lot of last meetings at clubs as a rider. Did that give you an inkling that maybe this is the way things were going?
As in last meetings, like because I just thought that was going to be the end, or
no, like at the London Lions, Oxford, the stadiums.
Yeah, I think I just had that bad luck.
There was more than one.
Yeah, there was. And it just seems to be that every team I have written for has kind of gone that way. I mean, I think the London Lions, which was 96, we all thought it was going to be there longer than what it was, and it was. I didn't realise that obviously that the last heat, which was actually we were against Oxford, I still remember it, and I'd just come third, and I'd come back in, but I was the last one on the track, and then they rained it off. So, but I didn't know that was going to be the last time a bike was ever going to be on that track. We thought the next year would be okay, and so on and so on and so on. And it was such a lovely stadium just to be kind of, let go. It was just disheartening. Really. I mean, I don't know if any of you guys went there, but it was just phenomenal. I mean, and not that as well. I mean, it was great for me. I mean, I went from Sittingbourne, which was like, you know, Kent, no disrespect, to this amazing stadium where Grand Prix had just been held the year before.
Yeah.
To, you know, it was just fantastic. And then for it just to kind of disappear, but just walking out with, you know, Lee Adams, you know, Josh Larson, you know, all those sort of guys, and even the teams we were against, you know, like Greg and Billy against when we were against Cradley, or I think they were Stoke. I think was it Cradley or Stoke? They were, you know, all that. It was all kind of a myth. It just like it happened so quick, you know. But yeah, walking out with them guys was just a dream come true. But yeah, and winning my last race in that meeting as well was obviously long time coming. My first race, but a long time coming. But you know, it was just showing the way it ended. And yeah, like you say, Weymouth has gone, Rye House has gone, Arena Essex gone. You know, they've kind of like just disappeared, haven't they? It's just frightening, really. You know, when you look back, that, you know, the tracks that I was involved with, it's just phenomenal, really. And a lot of them obviously down this way, but then there are some like Weymouth and etc. that have just, yeah, again, it's a shame. It's a shame for Speedway.
Yeah, the London track, all I can think of, if my recollection's right, was just the Grand Prix. And isn't that the one where Craig Boyce punched Gollop? Wasn't it that one?
Yeah, we were literally, because we got passes, because I'd already signed for London. We Dad and I had passes, and we were in the pits at the time, and so we had great view of what happened. So when where they were the pits were down the bottom end, and where the start was, we were just literally standing right in front of it. We had the best view, and yeah. And then of course we walked up slightly to have all the commotion going into the pits. But yeah, it was great. Yeah, that was that was that famous day. That was that famous day. But yeah. But I had some good times, and you know, I did learn a lot. And you know, to be fair, Lee was helpful, and you know, Kelvin, they were all really helpful. They were all good guys, all of them. Mogo, they were just fantastic, all of them. You know, they're just superb. Like, to be thrown in the deep end, and you can see from the statistics, you know, with Lee and I, because it was mainly just me and Lee that were about that year. There wasn't any other youngsters. You know, I had a higher average than Lee. I think Lee's was, don't quote me on it, but it was like 150, and mine was 185 or whatever it was.
Yeah.
You know, so it was tough because the number 7s and 6s were number 1s really, that should have been in the Premier League, because it all went to one league, didn't it, that year?
Oh,
so
yeah.
It was almost like, yeah, we were kind of dragged in, and I don't think they thought about it too well, because the kids that were coming in, which was obviously me and Lee, were kind of thrown that kind of deep, you know, in the deep end, where the year before, whatever, those riders were heat leaders that were number 6s and 7s, you know. So it was tough for us. It really was. But as I say, I did enjoy it. And one race did stick in my mind, because I did get messed around a little bit at London, because obviously they weren't winning, and they were chopping and changing me, and it was tough on me. But that, I remember being in the 14 tournament, and obviously I was desperate to win a race, but you know, it was desperate. But and obviously I was winning at Sittingbourne, left, right, and centre, maximum after maximum after maximum. But obviously the speed from riding the top division and bringing it with Sittingbourne was just, you know, and then taking it back to London was making such a big difference. But I just remember being at this 14 tournament, and I think I was on gate 1, Martin Dugard was on 2, Jason Crump was on 3, and Chris Lewis was on 4. Well, look at the calibre of the rider. Whether you look at it back in '96, or you put another 10 years on that, or whatever, they were still amazing riders back then.
Yeah.
And I gated, and I was in front, and I was like, well, I actually swore. I mean, oh my God, like, I'm in the first turn before these 3 riders, and I thought, wow, the red light's going to be on. And I'm looking at the red light, and I'm like, there's no red light. Surely I've jumped. How did I do this? And this is split second thinking. And literally, I've got around the first and second bend, and I thought, oh my God, I am in front of these 3 riders. Next thing is they went, And I literally did that wobble on my bike. I'm like, oh right, okay, right, yeah, no, they're still there. You know, it was great. It was just good experience, really. But yeah, it's just a shame that these the tracks that were around that have kind of disappeared and doesn't look like that. They're going to be coming back. We're saying that Rye House may come back. There might be a chance there, mightn't it? Hopefully, but obviously Lakeside stroke Arena Essex. That's another one that's gone, isn't it? So Weymouth won't come back. It's just sad, really.
Yeah. There was also, you did some individual racing, as most speedway riders do. But did you not take part in a race where technically you won but you didn't?
Was that the Conference League Riders Championship?
I think so. Yeah.
So
I'm very old.
Yeah. So it was really strange because I turned up because Weymouth that year they had a team, but I think we were only in the trophy. We weren't in the league. So they was asked to have someone represent them. So I turned up, but as a reserve. And what happened was one of the riders, and I can't think off the top of my head, got injured in the first race. So so in the first race. So what happened was I then took his place basically, but because I took his place, I didn't realise that after the meeting, because I reeled off 4 wins. So this was at Rye House. So I was actually top scorer going into the last heat with, I think it was Boxall. It could have been. And the lowest, so I had 12 points. The next one down, which I think was Simon Stevenson's and Lee Smart, they had 11 points. He had 10. I had 12, or something like that. It worked out something like that. But so I was basically second. But as I finished my 4th race, the referee came down to see me and said, just to make you aware, we've now decided, we've come to the decision that your 4 wins don't count.
What?
So they told me after I'd won my 4th ride. They didn't want me to win it again. That was the whole thing. So and I said, you're joking me. I said, why do you even put me in the meeting?
Yeah.
Why did you even bother? Because I wouldn't have even, I wouldn't have turned up. I don't think, because I did turn up. I was turning up as a reserve, which was stupid really, but it was only because that was the only option of getting in. I got a guarantee and I thought, well, I'll just turn up. They were going to pay me 100 quid or a couple of hundred quid, whatever it was. And I thought, job done. And the next thing is I'm in the meeting and then I had my 4 wins and they were like, sorry, but your points don't count. And I was just
crazy.
So disappointed. And I think in my last ride I didn't bother because I just thought, well, what's the point? What's the point? I'm not gonna get anywhere with this. So I'd finished second overall, but actually didn't get anywhere with it. So I was second in the meeting, but yeah. So I tried to appeal it, but they said it's too late. They'd already presented the trophies, and that was it. So yeah.
I believe they've changed that for GP qualifiers now.
Yeah.
They had one at Glasgow, and we had a similar situation. 2 riders were knocked out, and the 2 reserves took their place, and one of the reserves made it through. Yeah, and it was allowed to stand. Yeah,
and I don't think that was all down to me, but obviously I had put a complaint in, and Len at the time, obviously he fought it for me as well, and said, because I was always a Rye House rider, even though I was running for Weymouth at the time, and Len was really good to me all the way through, and he said it's ridiculous. No one knew the rule, and I think however many people that were there, I don't know how many were there, maybe 1,000 people, because they used to have big crowds, when the championship was on, maybe 1,500, whatever. No one could understand. I had people coming up to me saying, I don't get it. You should have finished second. Why have you finished last in the meeting? And you've got 12 points. I think Boxall won it on, did he win it on 13? It was something silly like that.
It was something silly. It was just a little margin.
Yeah, it was a little margin, wasn't it? And I just, I came away just feeling frustrated. I felt like going home, buying a trophy and going, you come second, mate. But you didn't. But I didn't. But, that was, another, I just felt like everything I did in when I was with a team or something, that the powers that be above were against me, whether they weren't, and they probably didn't mean to be. I just felt like no matter what I did, from even the days at Sittingbourne, and they wouldn't let me do stuff. And then again, obviously at London, and then I was meant to be going somewhere else, and then Terry Russell signed over our contracts to Arena Essex, and I didn't want to go to Arena. Not that I didn't like Arena, but you know, and it was just, I just felt like everything I did was just to be. There was always something, and the under 21s as well. I had the same issue there. You know, I was the only rider that year. I think it was 2020. No, it wasn't 2020. Yeah, I think it was 90. I've lost. Don't worry, I've lost 2 decades. 20. I've done it again. I think it was 1997, which was my last year at the under 21s, and I was the top scorer out of all the British riders across the whole of the 6 guys that went out to. I think they went to Sweden, wherever. We went to Croatia, and I was the top scorer. Scotty Nichols and Stuart Robson got 5 points that year. I got 8 points, and I had qualified, and then something had happened, and I can't remember what it was. They then said I was first reserve for the semi-final, and I never went because I just thought I just feel like everything I've done, you kind of, you know, you've just taken something against me, and I just thought, do you know what? It's just something else again. It's something. There's always something, you know what I mean? And then I had that thing at Rye House, and it was just another thing, you know. But yeah, I'm saying maybe because of all that, and everyone kind of kicked up a fuss, and obviously I wrote to the BSPA, which they were called back then. I think riders should be allowed to be. You know, if they score the points, why is it not counted? This just seems silly. Not that if you've got new members of Speedway coming in, doesn't make sense to them. They're like, well, how can a reserve be a reserve and then not get 8 or 6 points and not be counted? You know, what's the point of taking part?
And that was the programmed rides, was it? Then you know, I'm just thinking, David, that was the programmed rides you took there as reserve.
Yeah,
I
took 3. I took 3 program rides. Yeah, it was. Sorry, they're all program rides. Yeah, sorry, they were.
Yeah. Because that's the only thing that's the only way I can possibly think about it. You know, because it's only if you're just taking random rides for people who pull out at certain times, then it's not a normal program, then is it? But this is.
Yeah, that's right. It was a normal program, and as well, I didn't just have like 4 gate 1s. I had 2 gate 4s at Rye House. That is like the graveyard. And it always was, you know. So I did the hard work. It wasn't like and I'd beaten all the riders that had, you know, in the top, top 4 anyway. So
there is still a bit of a feeling around some of Speedway is that sometimes the powers that be seem to be playing favourites. Was that how it felt for you?
Cool, you're trying to drop David in it there, aren't you?
It certainly did, you know. Yeah, I know. Yeah, I mean, I've got to be careful. But not so much what's happened lately. But I mean, I felt that that's how it was, you know. And you know, it just, as I said just now, I kind of echo it again. I just feel like whatever I did kind of went wrong, you know, whether it was off the track, on the track, whether it was behind, you know, the decisions being made. And you know, it was just like things like I did 12 years. I was seven or eight years in the Premier League, and they wouldn't even give me a testimonial, you know. And Len was like fighting my way every year. Can you give it? No. Well, I never got anything at all, never. So for 20 however many years, whether it was in the 3rd tier, 1st league, 2nd division, whatever you want to call it, Premier League, you know, I wrapped up them years, but I was never given a testimonial. So, you know, and it was. I know it sounds funny, but we then obviously got on, and we bought Birmingham, and then, you know, that was the only way really I felt like I could get my farewell. And I don't think they would have ever given it to me before that. And I just think, you know, it's tough. It's hard to take all the way through, you know. And of course, because as I said, Lee and I grew up together. Lee then was with Reading, and then he kind of like took off. And and he, you know, I was like on a 4 or 5 point average, and he was on a 7, and he was like heat leader, and then all of a sudden, his career went through the roof, which was brilliant, you know. But I was just like, you know, like, oh my god, like, you know, like, how am I going to play catch up? You know, he obviously he had John Davis, I had Dave Jessup, and then, you know, I fell out with Dave. You know, that was me being stupid. So, you know, kids being kids, we don't think, you know, and I said the wrong thing, and I shouldn't have said it, you know, and I still talk to Dave now, it's fine. But at the time, you know, Dave was helping me, and he took his time to do it, and I should have taken it with both hands, and I didn't. But whereas Lee took it with John Davis, and, you know, went further. But yeah, it was hard. It was hard. It was hard to take all the way through, really. You know, Lee's going on and on and on, and it was, you know, I should have kind of followed him, because we was always there together. You know? But hey, that's the way things work out.
So up to a level, you kind of felt. I mean, so obviously we're talking about Lee Richardson, and sadly we kind of know where that story ended up. But really sadly,
it hit me hard. It hit me.
Yeah.
Hard, that, because I'd seen him about a week before, and I've gone to his house, and he phoned me, and he said, "Oh, Dave," I said, you know, we talked about, you know, because obviously things cost a lot of money, and if you're in the National League or Conference League back then, he said, "Oh, anything I've got," because he said, "I only use my chains once a meeting." I was like, "Oh, really?" He said, "So I'll just bring them back. You can have them, mate. I don't want them." I was like, "Oh, cool."
Wow.
I said, and then he was like, "Oh, the tires." He said, "I only use one edge per race." I was like, "Oh my god, like Jesus." He was like, "Yeah." He said, "Do you know what? I'll bring them back, and you can have a stack of them." He said, "Just have them. Brilliant. I don't want them." So I was like, "Cheers, mate. Really appreciate that." And then anyway, so I pulled up at his house, and then I rang him, and he didn't answer. I was like, "Oh God!" I was like, "He's probably even gonna, you know, where is he?" Do you know what I mean? And he phoned me back. He said, "Dave," he said, "I'm just doing the school run. I'll be back in 5 minutes." I was like, "Yeah, that's fine." And then we had a drink, had a cup of coffee, and then a cup of tea, whatever it was. And then he was talking about what he was going to do after Speedway. He's like, "I don't know what to do." He's like, "What do you do?" I was like, "You know, I've got a cleaning business." So I don't get involved with cleaners. I'm going, you know, like, and then I think the phone rang. I said, "There you go. You're just going to end up having a problem." He said, "I need to think of something when I finish Speedway, something to do." And then I think he was talking about possibly going in with John Davis doing because he does burger vans or something. I think he was talking about something like that. And then I was like, "Oh, cool." And then and then a week later he's dead. You know, it's just unbelievable, just shocking. You know, absolutely shocking.
Yeah,
it was hard. That was hard. That was really hard. You know, deep down, I think it still affects me a little bit. You know.
Yeah.
Definitely. You know, he's spent a lot of time with him, and Craig as well. You know, can't you know, leave Craig out. You know, it was good. You know, as kids we were always messing around and, you know, stuff. So again, Lee was local. You know, I'm only in Eastbourne, he's in Hastings. It was only up the road. So, but yeah, it was tough. It was tough call on that one. You know, and probably and obviously tough for the family. Tough. For, you know, tough for his wife. Tough for the kids. You know, kids. That was one thing that kind of stuck in my mind, that he's left the kids behind. You know, and you know, it's hard. Yeah, it's hard. That was definitely.
Yeah, and quite poignant, really, Dave. You know, the fact that he was talking to you about, you know, life post Speedway in a way. You know, even just a week before, and then that's taken away from him. And I guess that as a rider, you can't afford to think too much about how serious you could be hurt. I mean, if you did think about that too much, you surely wouldn't put the work in, and you wouldn't be able to throw the bike around the way you have to. So it must be hard when that's brought home to you at just how dangerous what you were doing was.
Yeah, it does. And there's a lot that stick in my mind over the years, that where riders have got injured. You know, Gary Stead as well. You know, I remember driving back, just dropping Dad back after a meeting, and then hearing that Gary had been in an accident. The next day we were going up to Rye House, and then, which was the Saturday, and knowing that, you know, there's a good chance that Gary will never be able to walk again. So you're then preparing yourself to go into a meeting, you know, and you're like, oh my God, like someone's just been paralysed. Someone you know, 2 years previous to that, or 3 years, it could have been 2 years, I can't remember, maybe 2 years, I'd gone up with, no, it might have been a year before that, actually. I think it was a year before that. I'd gone up with Dan Gifford for his whole end of season do. So we drove all the way up there, and we were actually sat on the table with Gary, and I sat next to Gary. So like, you know, again, you chat and you talk, and then, you know, a year later he's, you know, in a wheelchair. You know, you just think, wow, you know.
Yeah.
And again, the whole thing with Lawrence Hare, that was balmy. You know, I was at Newport. Obviously, that was a big hoo-ha there. I had a punch up, and then I got the sack the next day, and then, you know, Lawrence Hare took my place, and then he got paralysed, didn't he? Just, what, you know, just it's hard. It's tough, you know, and it's I know it sounds funny, you know, it's not fair on. And I know it is a sport, and, you know, it doesn't matter what sport you're in. Some people do get injured in motocross or whatever, you know, but you know, it's tough on the families, it's tough on the person it happens to, and, you know, people don't think about it. We all carry on as our normal day-to-day thing, and I do, and we're all to blame. These guys have got to put up for the rest of their life, you know. I know they knew that before they got on the bike, but on the same note, you know, they didn't want it to happen when they got on the bike. So but yeah, it's toughy. And talking all doom and gloom. Let's get on to this subject.
So then, what was wrong with Glasgow Tigers?
Go on.
2004. Why not sign for Glasgow? Okay, it wasn't as great as it is now, but, you know.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, it wasn't, but to be fair, that wasn't the reason. They did offer me a good deal, and they did offer me to fly up there. I just think because I think that year, which was about 2004, wasn't it? Do you know what? It was for me, and I think with any rider, I think they should take note that don't think it's going to come to you. And I thought it was always going to come to me. That call, or why is no one interested, or whatever. Really, you've got to sell yourself, and I didn't sell myself. And I think that was the biggest problem. And you know, you don't realise that riders are now learning, obviously had taken over with Birmingham and stuff like that. The riders are already sorting their deals out in August and September, you know. So and I didn't think like that. I thought Len would always sort it out, because he had looked after me for like 4 or 5 years at the time. And I just thought, well, you know, I've done a reasonable job at a second string, got off just under a 6-point average, and I'm just thinking, why has no one come in for me, you know? And that was not being big-headed. I think it was naive, you know. And I just thought, you know, anyway. So I had nothing, and then I think it got to about May, and I think then I had that phone call from Glasgow saying, you know, we've got this opportunity, we're going to come and ride. Do you know what? I should have taken it, but that was a regret, and I regret that. I really do. I know they're not literally in that meantime. I think it was in that space of a week, Weymouth called me, and I was doubting it, because I just thought that's a step back. I'd already done all that, and I won the Riders' Championship. I'd then done 2 years in the Premier League, and I'm thinking, do I really want to go back? That wasn't. It's not negative, but I just think, you know. And then I just thought, do you know what? I don't know if I could I be. You know, it's a long way to go. Could I? You know, it's a challenging thing for Glasgow. You know, from being right down south to go all the way to Glasgow every week. And then I was thinking, do you know what? Like, this Weymouth thing comes up. Maybe I took the easy route, and I think that's what I did. I was thinking, whoa, I can earn a few hundred quid a meeting. I could easily wipe everyone out, no problem at all. You know, like having experience and being just under a 6-point run in the Premier League, I'm going to go in number 1 at Weymouth. This is nothing. You know, I can then rack up some points. You know, get a few. And so I went that way, and it was just. I think for me, it was. I regret that decision, because I should have stayed in the Premier League. I should have possibly gone to Glasgow and then done it. You know, and who knows where that would have gone. I mean, it's like Lynn said. I mean, Glasgow wasn't what it is now, but it was still a Premier League circuit that I should have stayed at, because it would have kept me at that level. And you know, you only ride against. You only go as fast as you go if you're you know, whatever level you're at. And of course, if you're in the National League, you kind of slow down after a while, if that makes sense. But if you're running with the fast guys, you're getting faster and faster. So, you know, so yeah, I do regret that, and that was probably the only reason. Just, I suppose it's the easy route, and I knew I could earn far more money going there than going to Glasgow. It's just crazy, and of course the powers that be didn't like that. They didn't like that, you know, knowing that you know, that there is Conference League or National League riders that that were my level, earning decent money in the in the conference or national league than the Premier League.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And that's it. But you'd be at the point you were settling down and family and stuff as well.
It was literally around about that time. Obviously, you know, we would, the other half was I think pregnant at the time. You know, so we, you know, I would have taken away the time with that, and it was a hard decision. It was, but as I say, I do regret it. I do regret it. You know, I have said it a few times that I should have, when Glasgow rung, I should have taken it with both hands and said, yeah, I'm up for it. Let's go. You know, whether it hadn't worked out or whatever, I could have come back. There's no doubt. I think there's some problems. They did have some problems with Weymouth with Justin Elkins, and he wasn't either turning up or I don't know, he'd break down. And I just thought, you know, I probably could have come back and slotted back in there later on in the season, you know, but hey ho, the decision was made by me, and maybe it was the wrong decision, but you can't turn back the clock, can you?
Yeah. Yeah. So you're looking after all your animals and things now, as well as running your cleaning business and being a midwife to the pygmy goats. And...
Yeah. So yeah, we bought a couple of acres actually. And it was just a grass field. So it was just, there was nothing there. It was, you know, 6 foot high of grass. And, you know, we bought this field, and it was all by chance again. It was all a bit weird, but we bought it and we were like, what are we going to do with it? And for the first part of it, the boys rode around their motocross bikes, and it was great for them. It was, you know, and then until Harley, the oldest one, broke his arm, and the bones ended up coming through his arm. So that kind of ended that for a little while. So we then just used to camp there and just have a bit of fun. And my cousin used to come down, and we just, you know, drink, and, you know, and then we're like, hold on a minute, we've got this field, what are we going to do with it? You know, and then all of a sudden now it's like a mini home. You know, we've got animals there, we've got stables, and, you know, it's all done out. And now we bought some more land, so we've got, you know, 13 acres down there, and, you know, we've got a static caravan, and we can go and stay there, and it's to get out. It's in the middle of nowhere. You know, it's next to a forest as well, and, you know, we love it. And of course, you know, we then got into breeding, and yeah, the goats, and, you know, we've been showing the goats as well. As we had the pandemic, just before the pandemic, we were showing the goats, and then yeah, I've gone from literally cleaning bikes to loading them in the van, to then going to a speedway stadium, to cleaning goats, or loading them in the van and going to shows. It's just gone completely opposite way. But I do remember picking up some sheep for the first time, because that was the first animals we got. We got a couple of got a couple of rams, and then I picked them up and I put them in the back of the van, and then I pulled up at this set of traffic lights, and all I could hear was meh, meh, and I'm like, what has my life come to? Like, literally, I'm sitting at this traffic lights with 2 sheep in the back of my van, you know. Anyway, and then I ended up grabbing them and then literally plonking them in this field, and oh yeah, what do we do now? But we've learned all the way through. You know, we've had some great advice, but, you know, it is difficult. It is, and chickens are the worst. They are, you know, gone from, you know, literally. Yeah, I've had to inject a couple of cockerels this week because they've kind of got the flu or something, whatever. Not bird flu, by the way, but they've got a bit of, you know, don't feel right, you know, gone down a bit. So I've had to give them some vitamins, and just learning as you go. You know, it's just unbelievable, but it's great fun. You get so much pleasure out of it. You know, and it's a good time filler. You know, like you know, the boys, they've got a car each, and one's got a van, one's got a car, and they just rag around the fields. Driving, they can both drive. You know, I've got a 12-year-old that can drive around the field, and, you know, they've got, you know, a couple of motocross bikes, and they've got a quad, and it's like blooming, you know, every weekend he's got his mates down, and it's like, you know, it's happy days down the farm, you know. So everyone said we should film it and do a little documentary, like you know, like a couple of the famous people have been doing lately. So, but yeah, it would, yeah. Don't know how many views we get, but yeah, we do come across some problems as well, and it's good fun.
Yeah, further your own TV career. See, I can find out lots of things.
Tell you what.
So yeah, EastEnders. Yeah, that was a big thing. That was yeah.
Oh, there's no stone uncovered with Lynn around. Don't worry about it. You'll be told stuff you didn't even know you did.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, literally.
But how do you, just back to the career, kind of the latter stages? I mean, what on Facebook, you know, kind of told everybody that you were coming on, and there was a nice shout out. I'm going to call his name, so he calls himself Shadows. Chris, his name is, and he said his daughter, you were his favourite rider. You were a favourite rider in the early 2000s with Rye House, and obviously I think you were captain at a number of the tracks as well. So there's obviously something around, you know, some sort of either leadership quality or something around the teamwork that obviously you brought to teams when you were there as well, perhaps.
Yeah, I mean, most of the seasons I did with different clubs. Obviously, not London Lions, except that one. I mean, Rye House captain, you know, Arena Essex, you know, Hackney captain, you know, Weymouth captain. Pretty much every team I was in, you know, it was nice to get that. Oh, can you be captain? Now, I just tried to help the kids out. That was what I was there for. If I was in the National League. I mean, it was hard being captain in the caliber of, you know, Brent Werner. I did feel sometimes that, you know, I'm kind of, when I started off, when I was number 6 or number 7 or what it was, and you got Nigel Sadler, you got Brett Woodfield, you've got Mark Courtney, you know what I mean? Like, you know, and then they appointed me a captain, and I'm like, you know, they used to take, to be fair, they used to take the P and used to go, go on, captain, go on, off you go. There's only one reason why you've got that C in front of your name. You know, you had all that banter. It was good. But I did think, especially when you have those sort of riders in the team, it was like, why am I? But Len wanted to give me that, to give me confidence, because that's what I was lacking all the time.
Right.
You know, so he could see it. So for that, I mean, National League, not a problem. I'd always do the business, not a problem. You know, then say go out and win a race, not a problem. You know, but to then turn it into the Championship, Premier League, you know, that's why he said, you know, let's give you that kind of stature to give you that confidence, give you that boost, you know. And it was good because, you know, tossing the coin, you know, you're normally with the number ones, and, you know, going out with riders like, you know, on the truck, because we usually go out on the truck, and whoever would be on the front. So I just remember going out one day, we were against Bellevue. It was we used to do the Interleague Challenge things, didn't they? And we were against Bellevue, and I sat on the front, and, you know, oh my God, I looked to my right and Joe Screen's there, you know, it's like, wow, you know, this is great. You know, so it was good. It was good like that, you know, and you feel confidence on it. Yeah. But every team, so majority of the teams, which is, I'm really lucky to say that either Len has appointed me, or, you know, or whoever, and, you know, I have really treasured that, because not every rider gets that opportunity. They can probably go through their whole career and never been given a captain, whether it's in the third tier or National League or whatever, you know, to Championship, to Premier League. You know, it was great to have.
Yeah, and do you know winning the Riders' Championship? Do you remember much from it? I mean, obviously that is a big honour in terms of
I can see it right now. I can literally see it, that last race, and then going into that turn. I can see going into turns 3 and 4, and knowing that when they say, when you're winning something, and you probably hear through with riders, that last lap, you can hit literally every nut and bolt. And I'm telling you, that is the feeling. It's the strangest feeling. And you almost become numb. Like, you go all tingly. It's just really weird. It's a weird feeling. That's why normally that last lap, every rider, if they're going to win something, they kind of look a bit sketchy on the bike. That's because they're going through that adrenaline, aren't they? And they're, you know, you see them either drift out wide slightly, and you know, because I wouldn't say they're losing concentration. I just think your whole body's going through all this, you know, and it's like, but I just remember coming across that line and just thinking, yes, about bloody time. Because there has been so many opportunities where I should have won it, you know, and it was just so nice to just cross it and go, yes. You know, I should have won it in 97, 96. I think it was 96 at Long Eaton. Should have won it then. We all had the same points, didn't we? 11 or 12 points going into the last. It was a last heat. They used to do a last heat, which I didn't think that was fair either. But to be fair, if we were all on 12, all 4 riders, I'm sure, you know, we still would have had a run off anyway. But
Yeah.
you know, I did think to myself back then, one more point and I could have won it without even going into that. But again, I used to get to the last heat things, and the confidence used to kind of drop, and
Right.
you know, it was hard to kind of attack it really. And again, I just dropped the clutch, and I was last going into the turn. And yeah, I think Mike Hampson won it that year, whoever it was. Yeah, so he won it, and yeah, but yeah, it was nice. It was nice to win the championship at long last. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. And then of course, you know, kind of following the riding career, the most recent venture really. So obviously coming into Birmingham with your dad, Peter, 2018, up until a few months ago. I mean, how do you look, you know, when you look back and just think about your time there, how do you think about it now, and how do you reflect on that period for you?
It was funny how it come up. Really, it was really strange. But you know, the next thing is we're promoted. Well, I'm a promoter at, you know, Birmingham Speedway. You know, and with the owners. You know, so it was just really just how it kind of come about with Tony Mole, and you know, it was really really bizarre. But we took it on. We was in the National League. Great team that year. I think we were the only team up until June or July that had been unbeaten across the whole of the world. Apparently,
Wow.
I got told.
Wow.
Yeah, we had not lost a meeting. So, and then again, bad luck comes along, you know, and I'm like, here we go, you know, and Mitch gets hurt, and it just rattled through. I was like, that night when Mitch went down, it was almost a reflection of like, wow, you know, that could have been me, what, you know, like you know, years back. You know, Dad came up to me, he goes, look, now can you see how lucky you've been?
Right.
You know, I'm like, wow. But I mean, literally, they had to revive him on the track. You know, he was a goner, and it was tough for me because even though when a rider went down in a meeting when I was captain or whatever, I'd always go out and see that rider because the captains were always allowed to go out.
Yeah.
So I know this sounds really, but you absorb all this, and it's all negative stuff, isn't it? You know, it's hard. But so Mitch had gone down, and we knew it was bad. Like, and I just said, look, to the track staff, build a wall, because where he'd gone down, everyone could see what was going on. So I just said, you know, like, and funny enough, it was the only day his parents had turned up as well. So I said, build a wall, cover it up, because there was no way of covering it up. And so we kind of, but how, I don't know why I did it. I just reacted that way. And you know, it was just weird how I kind of dealt with that situation. But yeah, and then it kind of snowballed from there, didn't it? You know, we had, but there was such a good bunch of lads, all of them. You know, it was good laugh. You know, it was great banter, and we were doing so well. It's just a shame it worked out, you know, different. But that night as well, we had another one on a junior go for the fence. I just thought, what is going on? You know, it's like bad luck after bad luck. You know, but yeah. So, and then we had that decision really to kind of, do we move it up?
Yeah.
Do we keep it? And I think the crowd wanted to go up, but we needed the crowd to come with us, and also more crowd to come along to support the team, because what pays the bills is the crowd. There is nothing else. Yeah. You know, obviously you have got sponsors and, you know, et cetera, but that doesn't pay for every meeting, you know. So you know, we decided to move it up to the championship, and we had a plan, and we had a budget, and we brought the riders in, and I listened to obviously a couple of promoters and said, you know, if as long as we win at home, we should be all right. And that's, I'm building on that. I'm building it. And hopefully by the end, we'd be chomping to get into the Premiership. That was the idea. Yeah. And then obviously after the first few meetings, we were losing them. Crowd was dropping off, and I was thinking, Jesus, I've got to do something about this. And it's not a nice thing to do. It happened four or five times to me, and I got the sack, and it's not a nice feeling. It's a horrible feeling. Yeah. And to make that call was not that first one with Uric, you know, it was tough. It was tough because I've grown up with the guys. Yeah. I knew every single person. I knew all the riders one way or another. I've either ridden against them or had some sort of like mini friendship somewhere down the line. So you know, it's tough to kind of like, you know, get rid of the two riders, bring Adam in. I mean, but to be fair, no disrespect to the two that went out, when Adam came in, it just changed the whole dynamics. We all of a sudden had a number one to go out and score points. And it changed everything. And you know, the balance of the team by the end of that year was we're winning. Wow. You know, actually then the crowd started getting, you know, a lot better, and we built it up, and it was like, this is good. And then the pandemic comes along and then just ruined it for all of us. So it ruined for us, you know, ruined it for us, certainly, you know. And it was tough. It was really, really, really tough, you know. You know, we put out a good team that we thought that was, you know, a good team that year, and we signed Chris, and you know, to have the likes of him in the team and racing. Obviously, we had Garrity, but obviously Garrity got put away, and you know, we had a fine balance of racers, and it was entertaining. We had a couple of gators in there. You know, we knew that we could score points, and we just really thought that, you know, that was going to be it. And then, I say, pandemic started, and oh, sorry, hold on. He's still trying to ring me, but anyway.
No worries, so, carry on.
Yeah, so, you know, we've got what's my train of thought?
Yeah, you just said, I think Garrity had been, you were saying Garrity was away, and then you're kind of looking at your team building, weren't you, Adam, and giving you a lot more, and the crowds were coming back. So,
yeah, and then obviously I did actually say to Dad at the time, you know, we shouldn't run this year. We really shouldn't run. He was like, no, we should. I said, no, I think it's the worst decision we're going to do if we run. We should pull out. He said, no. We've got to run. We could have pulled out. It wouldn't have been a major problem. And just sat it out for a year. You know, the pandemic hadn't gone. It was still masks. It was still, you know, we couldn't use card machines. We couldn't. We had to pay. We had to do this online thing. You know, and no disrespect to the supporters that are supporting Speedway at the moment. There is youngsters and there is young people there, young generation, but the older generation, and there was probably 70% at Birmingham.
Yeah.
They didn't know how to use online stuff. They didn't have a clue, you know. So, you know, the decision was made between Lawrence and Dad, and they said, no, we're going to run. And I just thought, oh, well, we'll go with it then. You know, I wasn't really, I just said, you know my thoughts. I don't think we should. I'm sure the 7 riders that were there could have got picked up quite easily. You know, and I didn't think it was going to be a major problem, but we went with it. And we thought, right, okay, so we've made that decision, and that first meeting we did have problems. Don't get me wrong, we did have problems, but we got them ironed out, and it was ironed out straight away for the next meeting. And then that was it. We just, you know, having the likes of crowds of 220 people come through the door, you don't need a mathematician to kind of work out that, you know, you're on a loser straight away. And I turned away 100 plus 140 people at the gate because they wanted to pay cash, but we weren't allowed to pay cash. You know, just you know, and then there were so many things against us. We had the tractors and everything burnt out as well. You know, we had vandalism, and it wasn't just the Speedway; it was the dogs as well. They had all their computers stolen, and it was a lot. There was a gypsies that moved in the back car park. They moved in there for a few weeks. Of course, prime target was us, and they targeted it, and they did. It was just devastating. Of course, we had the roadworks as well. You know, all around there, they're doing all the building for the Olympics and stuff, and it was just one thing after another. And you know, as I say, I literally pulled it on. I think it was May time. Right. And I phoned Rob Godfrey, and I just said, look, mate. You know, I know there's problems with Eastbourne, Paul, Wolverhampton. I said, but I need a month. He said, no, he said originally, are you going to pull out? And I said, I think we're going to have to. He said, well, I'll give you a month. Let's see what it looks like. Because this was a pandemic. It was the pandemic that was causing us the problem. And the older generation weren't coming out. And I just said, look, all right, let's give us that give me that few weeks just to kind of get our head back round and see what we can do. Obviously, we couldn't do anything with the pandemic. We were waiting on Boris Johnson to kind of let everything loose again. It just wasn't happening.
Yeah.
And then, of course, every week that goes past, you're delaying a meeting. So then you're on a backlog, because we're on a cut-off date. If we don't get in that cut-off date, you end up getting a fine. So whichever way around, we were pushed to kind of get that completed. So every week we were like, we're not going to run, It was like, wow, we're getting closer to that. To that point where we're like, we're going to end up getting fined if we're not careful. So I had all these implications that people didn't see behind the scenes that were that could possibly cause us another issue after another issue. So we decided to come back, and then again, I said, if you don't come out, there won't be any. And by Christ, we had a bloody good crowd that night. We were like, here we go. We're back on the back on the track again. But the damage had already been done in April and May. So to try and regain all that money that we'd lost, it was just tough. And then had a couple of meetings, it was great. And then all of a sudden, bang, it went back down again.
Right.
So we were like, this is ridiculous. Like, what is going on? And that was it. When Dad was leant over, the meeting had started. It was about heat 4, and I walked over because he said, I'm not feeling too good. And I walked over, and he was leaning over the back of the car, and I said, I can't do this anymore. I'm stressed.
Yeah.
And I said, right, that is it. We're done.
Yeah.
And I phoned Rob in the morning. I said, mate, we're done. He said, what do you mean you're done? I said, we're done. I said, I can't have Dad being like that. I said, he's 71, and to see him like that was tough. It was hard. I'm thinking, what is the point? Why are we doing this? Why are we putting on a show for the Speedway? We're keeping the Speedway going, but what for? Actually, to end up possibly I could lose my dad just because of Birmingham Speedway. Yeah. So Rob totally understand it. Rob Godfrey totally understand. He was so. I've got to say this, and people, and I told him, last year, in December when we last spoke, he gets knocked for everything. He's a bit like a Boris Johnson, isn't he? You can't ever do right, but you know what? He has been nothing but supportive all the way through.
Oh, great.
And people don't see. Again, like we were saying at the beginning, we British always pick the bad things and everything. And you know what? I wish people would give him some credit because it's happened again. Hold on. Back on. We're back on.
Yeah.
Sorry.
All good.
But I wish people would give him some credit because he's been superb. He really has. Nothing. I haven't got a bad word to say about him. Not at all.
Yeah.
Not at all. As I say, so then we came back and then so we decided to kind of move it on and that's history, I suppose. It's it's done and dusted.
How are you both now then? I mean, you didn't say whether. I'm sure it must have been stressful for you as well. But I mean, how are you both now? How's your dad, and how are you feeling now that you can kind of move on without all the strain of trying to run a speedway club?
I don't think it's hit home yet.
Right.
I mean, obviously, my time gets taken up with work and looking after the animals as a family as well. But I don't think it's really hit home. The season hasn't started yet. It will do soon. And I just feel that maybe once that started, it might hit home.
Yeah.
It's really weird because normally, our team would have been sorted by now anyway. But obviously, at the moment, Birmingham haven't announced their full team. But normally by sort of October, we're sorted anyway. So, but yeah, obviously they were late to the party. Different reasons behind that. But I don't want to go into that. That's up to them if they want to say anything. But I think it's going to be tough a bit when everyone starts doing what they normally do. But on the same note, Dad feels a lot less pressure.
That's good.
And you can wind down a little bit. You can chill out a little bit. So that's good. So those boxes have been ticked. But obviously, it's really strange because when the Speedway career ended, I did think, what am I going to do? And then obviously we took on this, and I thought that's kind of been like that stopgap thing. So it's been great because it's keeping me involved.
Yeah.
Actually, now the line has to be drawn because we're not involved. So yeah, obviously grateful for things like this because you still kind of get to have a chat and have a talk about it. And, get it off your chest, sort of thing. So
yeah, all kidding aside, you'd be very welcome to come and see a meeting at Glasgow.
I appreciate that. I do appreciate that. Thank you. I don't think I'll be getting back on my bike though.
No, but you can always give me a shout. And
yeah,
well,
I do.
Well, maybe you could go up there and then you could get Lynn doing a handshake with you and almost reenact as if you had signed for them back in that time.
Yeah.
You can make up for it.
You can make up for it. Yeah. I mean, it's just, it's really bizarre. I mean, we do enjoy Speedway, and that's why we kept it going. And we kept saying, let's keep it going. Let's keep it going. For the love of Speedway, we've all got that mug written on our head, but we do enjoy it, and we are supportive of the whole of the Speedway, not just whether it's Birmingham or wherever team I've been racing for. You just do. It's like a drug, isn't it? And it's hard to kind of get out of it. And it's a different sport than any other sport. That kind of, if you've ever been involved with other things, it is a weird one. It is a weird one. So.
Well, just before we finish, David, because I'm very grateful for your time, I just want to do a little bit of a quick fire round with you, just to get your feelings and kind of reactions to a few questions and find out a bit more about, your view of Speedway, almost as a fan and a rider, really. I'm going to call it 5 ride maximum. We do it with all our guests. So your first ride for your 3 points. What's the first meeting you remember going to?
Oh, that was back in when I first, obviously doing the training school. So it was, I think it was like Canterbury. It was Eastbourne v Canterbury, 86 sometime. Yeah, that was the first meeting I ever went to. Yeah. You're standing on the sideline, getting showered in all the bits of grit. And holding one of their little plastic visors up they used to chuck off. I was like, oh my God, I used to have a stack of them. I used to love it. Yeah.
Oh, you always remember your first one.
Always remember it.
That's 3 points. So let's go for the second ride. These are your program rides, and these points will count, by the way. So your second one, what's your favourite track or venue? Obviously, that might not always be the same, but have you got a favourite track or venue?
Well, my favourite track was always Rye House. I loved it. I knew that I could always, any opposing rider that would come there, whether a number 7 or a number 1, I knew that I could beat them one way or another. And that's why I liked it. It was just, I felt that I was confident there, whether I was on gate 4 or gate 1. And I still remember, and it was Carl Stonia that came up to me after the meeting. And I was on gate 4. He had come in as a tack sub, actually.
Right.
And it was him, Coconium, and I think it was Nigel Sadler. It was Nigel Sadler, and then Stonia. Then it was me on the outside. And no one expected me to win because I was number 6 that year. Eddie, I don't know who was number 7 actually. But anyway, and I came off of gate 4 and he ate right across it and won the race. Well, of course, Carl was in the GPs that year. So,
oh yeah, gosh. Yeah.
So like me crossing the line was just unexpected. Not only for Carl, he came up to me as we were come back in the pits, and he came up to me. He went, well, he swore. He went, what the effing hell have you got in that engine? And I said, oh no, it's just a basic engine from Trevor Hedge. He was like, no, you're telling me lies. I'm telling me lies. He said, how did you get it to come off a gate 4? How did you do that? I want to know how you did it. And it's really strange because then the following week we'd gone to Workington, never been there before, and I reeled off 3 wins on the trot, and I beat Carl again around Workington, and again I think I was off gate 4. And he came over to me in the Workington pit. He came over to me to the away pits at Workington, and he went, right, now Dave, you're bloody lying. You've just beaten me around my home ground. How the hell have you done it? What is in it? I'm telling you, it's bolts down an engine, mate. I'm telling you, there's nothing in it. Literally, He was like, you're lying. But I just remember, you know, though that you know, just knowing that. I'd say going back to it, my favourite track. You know, it was nice that, you know, Rye House was up there, and you know that it was great. And I loved Arena Essex.
Yeah,
that was great. Another track advantage. I loved the small track.
Yeah.
You know, where you could, you know, your Buxton. Everyone hated Buxton. I love Buxton. It was great because it was all throttle control. It wasn't flat out. It was all throttle control. You know, same as Rye House. Same as you know, Arena Essex late side, whatever you want to, you know, it was just great. You know.
Great. So it sounds like you got into Stoney's head there. Okay, that's 6 points out of 6. So your third one, your favourite rider, it could be anybody. Who would you count as almost the favourite one, whether it's because you know them or you like watching them? Who sticks out for you?
Well, obviously, I idolised Hans Nielsen. I think I had a training school at Eastbourne. I think when I was maybe 12 or 13, could have been that. And then we had some connections over in Denmark, and we used to go over there, and I used to ride their 80cc bikes. We used to stay with our friends, and then when you're involved with the Denmark people, they obviously look after you, but on a weekend they all kind of get together, and we spent a lot of time with Brian Anderson at the time as well. But Hans used to come along because obviously he was involved with the junior stuff. So I think having that respect and then seeing what he did with the kids as well, was great. I mean, he was just phenomenal. Again, I think with him, I you know, and you know, obviously Dave Jessup obviously did help me, and you know, I always felt that Dave was unlucky in his career as well. You know. You know that you know he never won the world championship, and you know, so yeah, I do feel that I think between probably Hans Nielsen, Dave Jessup, and even Tony. I mean, you got to take your hat off to someone like Tony Ricardson as well. You know, he was just the ultimate, wasn't he? You know, he just. So I think between that, I couldn't really pick one out of the hat, but spending time with Hans and then being in Denmark with them was you know, it's good for a good 2 or 3 years. It was good, you know, riding for Denmark as well. That was great back on the 80cc. So
yeah. Brilliant. Well, I mean, and so that's 9 points out of 9. You're on the good in here. So, but the fourth question is almost, you might have answered it already, because it was about the most entertaining rider. Because I think sometimes you can have a favourite rider, but you can also have someone else you just love watching, and they might not be your favourite, but there's something compelling about watching them race. I don't know if there's anyone who you haven't mentioned who sticks out in your mind.
I mean, everyone used to like Martin Ram, didn't they? You know, that was, you know, he was a proper racer, you know, no matter. And again, with Screeny, you know, he was the same, you know, and I do, you know, it was the same with Chris Harris, you know, I'd stand there, meeting after, even with Garrity as well, Jason Garrett, you know, you stand there and you'd look at him and you think, oh my God, he's gated last. But you know what? He ain't going to be last. You know, he'd end up winning the race, and it was just phenomenal. Some of the moves that they were bringing on, you know, some of the moves they did, you know, even with Mark Laram and people like that, you know, I think they are exciting riders, you know, and you've got to take your hat off to them because they're risking their life every time. You know, they're going around the boards or the air fence, whatever you want to call it. So, yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, no, can't argue with that one. He was my favourite growing up, really, in 1990, the first season at Kings Lynn. It was amazing. Yeah, and then Henke came along, and we were really spoiled.
And Henke,
wow.
yeah. Again, he was a different breed as well, wasn't he?
God, yeah, unbelievable. So anyway, you're on for your maximum. So the last one really is, and whether this is one you've been in or you've just watched, but is there any particular meeting you sticks out as your favourite one that you've seen? Either you were in or you watched it, I guess.
I mean, I think obviously for me, going out on that Conference League Riders Championship 2001, when we going out on the track with the air horns going, you know, etc., was unbelievable, you know, and winning that meeting was, you know, phenomenal. I think the one that always kind of sticks in my mind, but that was because of me causing a little bit of an issue with the Swindon fans, I think, was when it was a knockout cup quarter-final, semi-final, could have been semi-final, I can't remember. And it was Heat 14. Me, Mark, Charlie Guida, it could have been Ollie Allen. we needed at least a second place or a 3-all. That's what we needed to go through to the next round. So it could have been a semi-final. I can't remember. Anyway, being captain, me and Mark unfortunately missed the gate. Mark was third, whoever the other two were in front, and we come down that back straight on that first lap, and I thought I need to make a decision. I'm letting it all out of the bag now, aren't I? So I accidentally went down, and I knew that if I went down, it'd be a rerun. So it gave Mark. I knew I'd get excluded.
Yeah.
But being captain, I was thinking outside the box. So I went down. I kind of get trapped under the bike, and the red lights come on, and I think, yes, it's a rerun. They're not going to award it. They didn't, didn't award them back then, did they? It was always a rerun. So I can hear all these Swindon fans. They bought 6 coaches, and I can hear all these Swindon fans like screaming. Anyway, I just ignored it, and the mechanic come running over, and he grabbed the bike, and then we started walking back across the track, and they were like shouting every name under the sun to me. On the left-hand side, obviously right-hand side, we had all the Rye House fans, and all the Rye House fans are clapping. Obviously I know what I've done. Clearly. So they're giving me all this jip, and then like, come here, whatever. And then, so I said to Steve, give us the bike. He said, what are you going to do? He said, just give us the bike. So he said, what are you going to do? I said, just give me the bike. So anyway, I got on the bike and he pushed me off, and I went round, and I don't know why I did it. I have no idea. So I went round the first and second turn, gone down the back straight, stood on the pegs, faced the crowd, and went, come on like this, but obviously I should score. So I went back round the third and fourth turn, and I went round again and did it again. I had bottles thrown at me, I had everything. So anyway, I came back in, they stopped the meeting, the referee came down and said, you're fined £250 for doing that. So I thought, oh no. Len came up to me and said, don't worry, Dave, I'll pay for it, because it was great entertainment. but don't ever do it again. So I think I got a fine. I got another fine as well. So I wrapped up about 500 quid's worth of fine, I think, that night. But so I came back in. Funny enough, Mark goes out and bloody wins the heat, didn't he? So yeah, but obviously the first time my mum had ever been to Rye House, and there was people coming up to me saying they were going to kill me. I had to be escorted. I had to be escorted out the stadium. I had the police there as well. Yeah, the police came down, and I had to go in the back of the car with Andrew Silver, and they escorted me out the building because they were all waiting for me coming out of the stadium. So but yeah, that was one to remember. Definitely one to remember. And then that next year when I went there, I just got booed every year from there on. It was all to do with that. That's all it was.
Oh, I can't wait to put this out now. I can't wait to put this out and see if we'll get any Swindon fan reaction, if they got more memories. Brilliant. Yeah, they will. Well, look, I mean, I just want to thank, I'll always thank Lynn for coming and joining me with these. So thank you very much, Lynn, again. And above all, thank you, Dave. You've been great guests. You've been really open with us and candid, and that's been really interesting to get a feel for your career, what it's like as a rider, and also running the club, and just want to wish you the best really for your future endeavours, if you like. And cheers, thanks very much.
No, thank you guys, thanks for having me as well. I appreciate that.
And I'll see you soon, Lynn.
Yeah, thank you.
Take care, all the best, Dave.
Yes. Bye.
All right, cheers, thank you.